I really enjoyed the first Venom movie, and honestly, the third movie, Venom Last Dance, looks like it's going to be an absolute blast. I mean, if you know anything about the character of Null, who's rumored to appear in the movie, you would also be extremely excited. But of course, here on the channel, I obviously cover video games. And did you know that Venom the Lethal Protector has actually appeared in more than 30 video games? So in today's video, let's take a look at those appearances. And of course, guys, like I always say, if you do enjoy today's video, please don't forget to like here on YouTube. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you so very much for your continued kindness and support. And you know what? Since Venom did at least start out as a Spider-Man villain, let me know in the comment section below, who is your favorite Spider-Man villain? So Venom made his comic book debut all the way back in 1988. And the character was so popular right from the get-go that only 2 years later in 1990, he would make his very first video game debut as a, I guess, quote-unquote boss fight in the 1990 The Amazing Spider-Man video game that was released for the original Game Boy. And yeah, it's kind of hard to even call this an actual appearance since, well, I mean, look at it. It's not really the most glorious rendition of the Lethal Protector. But, I mean, to be fair, this was 40 years ago, so yes, the graphics, sounds, and pretty much every other aspect of video games has improved quite a bit since then. Now, for a much more pleasing to look at appearance of Venom, we jump over to the Sega Genesis game titled The Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin, which, interestingly enough, also released in 1990, but this time Venom is indeed in color and looks much more recognizable as one of the main boss fights that you must defeat before making your way all the way up to the Kingpin of crime, Wilson Fisk. Now, just 1 year later after that, in 1991, Spider-Man, the video game, was released to the arcades and featured multiple appearances of Venom as both a smaller enemy that you would defeat, as well as a big giant variant of Venom that essentially functioned as a boss fight in this arcade classic. Now, the next game we're taking a look at takes us to the year of 1994, and in my opinion, is at least one of the most iconic video games of the 90s, and that is, of course, Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage. Now, this one released on both the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis systems, which makes it probably the most widely available appearance of Venom in video games up until this point. And another reason why this game is so special is because, well, this is actually the very first time in video games where Venom is not just in the game, but is also playable. I think that seeing how quickly Venom goes from appearing in video games to being playable in these games just proves how quickly the popularity of the character continued to surge. Now, Venom did not stop his Super Nintendo appearances in 1994 with just the Maximum Carnage video game, but he also did appear as a boss fight in the 1994 The Amazing Spider-Man Lethal Foes game. Now, just 1 year later after that, in 1995, Spider-Man was released on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and Venom was once again relegated to just being a boss fight for the webhead to take down. However, I guess this time, the cool thing was that he was actually the final boss of the game, an honor that is usually reserved for the very best villains available. But fear not, if you enjoyed playing as Eddie Brock's Venom, there was another chance to play as Venom in 1995's Venom Spider-Man Separation Anxiety, where Venom and Spider-Man team up once again, this time to take down all the other symbiotes that are running amok. Now, it was a whole 3 years later, all the way in 1998, that Venom would make a return to video games, this time appearing in the super popular and well-received Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes. And his next appearance was in the sequel, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes, which released in the year 2000 and saw a pretty big jump up in graphics and is probably one of the coolest and most iconic appearances of the character to this day. Now, another big and iconic appearance for Venom took place in the year 2000 when he appeared in the PlayStation 1 classic Spider-Man. Without a doubt, one of his most memorable appearances, as he served as one of the main bad guys of this game, and I gotta be honest, I also do think that Darian Norris, who is the voice actor for Venom in this particular title, did a phenomenal job as the Lethal Protector.
You come back!
Oh, you should know, Spider-Man. The heist you pulled at the Science Expo. You're the bad guy this time.
Venom then took a 5-year-long hiatus from video games, appearing next in the abysmal 2005 title known as Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfect. Now, Venom did not stop his video game appearances in 2005 with just the previously mentioned Rise of the Imperfect game, because he was also a prevalent force in the cult classic Ultimate Spider-Man game.
He's out there. And I don't know if I'm scared of him or for him.
And yeah, the voice acting for Venom in this one is done by Arthur Burkhart, and it is terrific. Now that I think about it, Venom is actually sort of a lucky character in that sense, where most of the people that have voiced him in video games have done a fantastic job. Now, it was just 1 year later in 2006 where Venom returned to video games in the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. Now, this was also a special appearance because not only was he playable, but he also did have 4 different outfits available in this game, with his classic one definitely being my personal favorite. But it's very cool to see the Marvel Knights costume, the Thunderbolts costume, which was a very pleasant surprise, and even the Ultimate costume makes an appearance. Next, we jump to probably one of the most controversial Venom appearances, not just in video games, but just in general. And I'm of course talking about Spider-Man 3, the movie tie-in game that was released back in 2007. And let's be honest, as time has gone on, we have all grown to be less critical of this interpretation of Venom. But again, let's also be honest, this version ain't that great. And the pattern of multiple video game appearances in 1 year continues in 2007, because in 2007, not only did Venom appear in the Spider-Man 3 movie game, but he also made an appearance in Spider-Man Friend or Foe, where the boss fight between him and Spider-Man takes place in actually a really cool setting. Venom fans did then have to wait another 2 years until 2009 to see the return of Venom in games. And what a return it was, because I'm of course talking about Spider-Man Web of Shadows. This is arguably, even to this day, at least from a story perspective, and heck, in some people's opinion, even gameplay perspective, the best game that Venom has made an appearance in. And going from one of his best appearances, we have one of his worst appearances, because in 2009, he also appeared in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. And this might very well be the single ugliest design of Venom, or maybe even any superhero character, honestly, I've ever seen in video games. I mean, it's like that classic meme.
Look how they massacred my boy.
So next, let's take a slight detour with some rapid fire and honorable mentions. Now, of course, we all know that mobile gaming has gotten absolutely ginormously massive and popular, and it's really no surprise that because a character like Venom is so popular as well, that he would appear in tons of different mobile games, which would include things like Marvel Puzzle Quest, Marvel Realm, and Contest of Champions, where he's actually playable as both Venom and Agent Venom. So that is definitely pretty freaking cool. Marvel Strike Force, Marvel Future Fight, Marvel Duel, and Marvel Avengers Alliance. Yes, there are a lot of Marvel mobile games. Now, Venom did also manage to get himself an actual arcade cabinet in the Marvel Pinball Effects game. Pretty freaking cool. Then, speaking of cool, one of the coolest recent video games to come out is Marvel Snap. And yes, indeed, just like most of the other characters in Marvel Snap, Venom does get himself a card as well as a bunch of really beautiful art variants. And he's got a really cool ability where he essentially kind of like eats all the other characters within the zone that he's played in. Just a really cool concept and a really cool character application. He was even playable in an MMO game when he joined the roster of playable characters in Marvel Heroes Omega back in 2014. And of course, it would be super disrespectful for me to forget his appearance in Fortnite. Well, I guess technically his multiple appearances in Fortnite, because not only did we get the classic comic book design with 2 different edit styles in the game, but for those of you that are fans of Tom Hardy's take on the character, guess what? That version is available in the game as well. And of course, with the release of Venom Last Dance, they're back in the Fortnite item shop. If you missed out on those skins, it is probably as good a time as any to go ahead and add them or re-add them to your locker bundles. And of course, in addition to that, don't forget that they also do have She-Venom available in the shop as well, if you'd like to expand your symbiote roster beyond just the core Venom selection. And if you're planning to do so, use support creator code the Blitzwingers. Thank you guys so very much for your kindness and your support. Now, getting back on track with our release schedule, we then jump to 2011 for a much more family-friendly version of Venom, because he makes an appearance and is a playable character in the Superhero Squad online video game. Definitely a place that you don't expect a more mature character like Venom to appear in, but I guess Venom is rated E for everyone. The next appearance is one that I think has gone unnoticed in many people's minds, because this is a game that to this day has only been released on the Wii U and the Xbox Kinect, and I'm of course talking about Marvel's Avengers Battle for Earth. The game that was released back in 2012 and to this day has never been released on any other console or platform. Hopefully that changes someday. Now, this next one is a game that I hold dear to my heart, because it was one of the games that helped grow this very YouTube channel, and that would of course be Lego Marvel Superheroes. Venom is without a doubt one of the coolest characters on the entire roster, and he's just one of a few characters that can actually transform from minifigure to Big Fig, allowing you to essentially play as both regular Venom and Monster Venom. Now, just 1 year later, in 2014, we got another family-friendly appearance from Venom in the Disney 2.0 Marvel Superheroes video game, where he was both an enemy boss fight in the Spider-Man playset, but was also an actual playable character via the cool Toys to Life mechanic that the game used. It was then a long 3 years later that Venom returned to video games, this time returning back to a familiar world, because Venom returned in 2017's Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 video game. This time, not only did we get Venom as a playable character, but Agent Venom was included in the playable roster as well, and we even got the 2099 version as well.
There's bound to be a trap! Venom? Carnage? Or is it Carnum or Venage? Do you have a business card?
Oh, and of course, how could I forget about the epic monstrosity that is Carnum, a character that combined the Lethal Protector Venom and the Living Terror Carnage. Now, interestingly enough, Venom did miss out on being included in the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Fate of Two Worlds game that released back in 2011. But he was back onto the playable roster in the latest Marvel vs. Capcom game, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I really like the design of Venom in this game in terms of visuals, but I do have to say that this is one of those rare times where I think his voice is legitimately terrible.
We are Venom!
Now, it was a whole decade after the release of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. 2019 saw the release of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And guess what? Everyone's favorite anti-hero was back at it again. Yes, once again, for the third time in this series, Venom is back as both a playable character and the boss fight that you have to defeat in the main campaign of the game. Venom then once again went away from the video game realm for another 3 years, only to return in 2022's Marvel Midnight Suns game, where he got quite a bit of a makeover, looking like a weird combination between like Venom and Steppenwolf from the DC Comics universe. And finally, most recently in 2023, the Lethal Protector's latest appearance was as part of Marvel's Spider-Man 2, where I feel like the character was portrayed well, with Harry Osborn this time serving as the host for the Venom symbiote. But I think I am so much more excited about where this version will take us into the future, because after all, he is most definitely rumored to be getting his own spin-off game, which would be extremely exciting. I said that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was his final or latest appearance, and that is true, but technically there is another appearance that Venom will have later on this year that has already been confirmed, because of course in December of 2024, the highly anticipated Marvel Rivals game will finally release to the public. Now, of course, as someone who was fortunate enough to play Marvel Rivals already during the closed beta and the closed alpha, I can honestly say that Venom is an incredibly fun and tanky character in that game, and I cannot wait to dive back into the world of Marvel Rivals and take the Lethal Protector for another spin. So there you have it. Those were 30 plus video games that Venom has appeared in. And honestly, I knew Venom was popular, but to be in over 30 games is super duper massive. There really aren't very many Marvel or DC characters that have appeared in this many titles. I am legitimately curious to hear how many of these games have you played for yourself. And of course, like I always do say, don't forget to leave a like on today's video if you found it to be enjoyable. This one took a long time to put together, with tons and tons of time spent trying to do research to make sure that I don't miss out on any appearances. So I would really appreciate it if you guys could leave a like and maybe even share the video. That would be very much appreciated. Now, of course, the other thing that I did want to say, I am very curious if we're actually going to get a Venom standalone game, just because, again, when you see a character that has appeared in 30 different titles, you kind of assume that at some point in time, this character would get their own video game. And I do think that there is a future in which I most certainly could see Venom getting a standalone release. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. Now, in the meantime, of course, if you guys would like to see an in-depth showcase of Venom in the different Lego forms that he has taken, check out the video that you're currently seeing on your screen, and I will hopefully catch you guys here on the next one. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Peace out. See you later. Gators.